Hello!
Oe gozaimasu. Watashi no namae wa Riri desu.
Ano raw? Ah, I mean, I don't understand you again. What are you saying?
Sorry, I meant to say my name is Rai. Nice to meet you. Uh, are you hungry? Come on, let's eat.
Oh, yeah, let's go get a food. Wow! Here's our food. Let's eat.
uh, Sore ga kirinarai na desu ka? Oh,
Sorry?
sorry. Don't you like it? The
Yeah, I
food?
like the food. I like the food.
Ah, wakata. I mean, okay.
Ooh. No, we don't eat very loudly here in the Philippines. Though, I like it. I like the food. By the way, can you pass me that? That,
Uh,
that one.
you mean the beer? Oh, here's the beer. Sorry.
Thank you.
So as you can see, cultural differences can really cause conflict with communication. Understanding that language barrier can happen, we can both speak in English for a common ground.
So, in the culture of Japanese, eating loudly with your ramen means you like the food. But here in the Philippines, we don't like to create loud noises when we're eating. But it doesn't mean that I don't like it. So, we can't judge by our own perception.
And that's why we have to understand cultural relativism,
We
and
will
will take
take
you
you
to
to
the
the
world
world
of
of ethical
ethical
understanding.
understanding.
Let's go!
Sayonara!
Okay, can anybody answer the previous slide? Previous slide, please. Yeah. Is there really right or wrong? Or we just raised to believe the morality imprinted on us? Can I ask some of you to give a kind of response to this question, please? Ray, can you give us some inputs on this? Ray, Rayleigh?
Hello po, sir.
Yes,
Ako po ba tinawag niyo po, sir?
yes, yes. Go ahead, Rayleigh.
Ah, is there really right or wrong? I would say, with relativism po, sir, wala po. Because this is relative to your own beliefs and moral standards, and also to the norm of the society na imprinted on us. So the red part here po is also correct, that we were just raised to believe yung morality na na integrate sa atin sa with our community po.
Okay, is that your own understanding or because you have heard of what cultural relativism is all about? Okay? Do you believe on that or on the red one? Or because you have heard what cultural relativism is all about? Ito ba yung paniwala mo yan o dahil sa nabasa mo?
Sir, yung for the universal moral codes po, I believe po na we have to follow certain standard po to avoid conflict. However, with our personal opinions and ideas po, we have to um disregard what is right or wrong, and we have to be more understanding po with how we communicate with others po. Good morning po. Since as you can see in our video, our lesson for today, we will be talking about cultural relativism. Sorry for the title here. There's some typographical error. So, Alex?
So, hello. Um, Next page, please. Oh, hello, guys. I am Alexandra Lane and Robles,
And this is really MJ Crisostomo.
and we are here to present the meaning of cultural relativism. So, here are our learning objectives. So, first is we should develop the meaning and definition of cultural relativism and examples. Second is we develop cultural sensitivity and learn relativism from perspective. And third is to elaborate the pros and cons of the topic cultural relativism. So, relativism says what is true for you is true for you, and what is true for me is true for me. Though analogously, cultural relativism would say what you believe, value, or practice depends on your culture, while what I believe, value, and practice depend on my culture. So, what is cultural relativism? It is the idea that a person's belief, values, and practice should be understood based on person's own culture rather than be judged against the criteria of another. It is the view that moral or ethical systems, which vary from culture, are all equally valid and no one system is really better than any other. This is based on the idea that there is no ultimate standards of good or evil, so every judgment about right and wrong is a product of society. Therefore, an opinion on morality or ethics is subject to the cultural perspective of each person. Ultimately, this means that no moral or ethical system can be considered the best or worst, and no particular moral or ethical position can be actually be considered right or wrong. It is also the ability to understand a culture on its own terms and not make judgment using the standards of one's own culture. So, just like what parang na-shinow po sa aming skit kanina, we can see po doon na nagkaroon ng parang date ang isang Filipina and Japanese and meron po silang cultural difference like yung pagkain po nila ng ramen. Sa atin po here in the Philippines, we don't like to create loud noises when we're eating kasi po parang bastos po siya or hindi po tanggap sa ating society. While sa Japan, mas okay po na mas malakas ang parang pag-slurp po nung ramen means mas nasasarapan ka sa pagkain and disrespectful po siya kapag kapag hindi malakas ang pag-slurp mo kasi feeling po ng nagluto is hindi ka nasarapan sa pagkain nila. So it is closely related to ethical relativism, which views truth as variable and not absolute. What constitutes right and wrong is determined solely by the individual or by the society, and sees nothing inherently wrong and nothing inherently good with any cultural expression. So here po is the relativism versus universalism. So, relativism is the perspective nga po stands against an ethnocentrism and it defends the principle that one should not impose one's values on others and universalism man po is contrast to relativism. Universalism emphasizes the universal truth that should be defended regardless of cultural differences. And here are the hot topics, which is public breastfeeding, child labor, women's dress code, public affection, same-sex marriage, and eating habits. So, cultural relativism versus cultural perspective. So, if Perspective po is a standpoint or viewpoint of something, and if we hold on to strict cultural relativism, it is not possible to say that human sacrifice is wrong or that respect for the elderly is right. After all, those are product of the culture. This takes any talk of morality right over the cliff and into meaningless gibberish, while relativism is a general breakdown when examined from a purely logical perspective. The basic premise is that truth is relative. If every truth statement is valid, then the statement some truth is absolute must be valid. The statement "there are no absolute truth" is accurate according to the relativism, but it is an absolute truth itself. This contradicts the very concept of relativism, meaning that absolute relativism is self-contradictory and impossible.
Just to add up sa mga sinabi po ni Alex, um, cultural relativism is different from ethnocentrism. Kasi 'pag sinabi nating ethnocentrism, this is judging others by the perception of their own culture. But when it comes to cultural relativism, this is the notion that culture should be understood on its own term and not using the standard of another culture. And to give some example, here are some of the cultural conflict that we often face worldwide. When we are asking, for example, when we are asking for direction in Malaysia and Africa, they would often point their index finger to that direction. But in Nicaragua and sometimes in the Philippines, we uses our lips to pout and to point dun sa bagay na gusto nating ipaabot or to show direction. Well, this could cause conflict kasi katulad sa video, it might misunderstood by other countries na someone is asking or disrespecting someone by asking for a kiss. And this is this is important that we have to understand relativism na hindi lahat ginagamit yung same gestures when pointing out to something. But in Africa, they only point to things or to animals and they don't point to people or humans because for them it is something that is disrespectful. Another example here is um, using our hands when we are eating. In the Middle East, India, Sri Lanka, and parts of Africa, they are not allowed to use their left hand to for eating because they believe that this is something that we are using. This is dirty. This is something that we are using for our private parts when we are washing in the toilet. However, in the Philippines, I think mostly naman nagagamit natin both hands, especially when we are eating sa mga boodle fights or sa mga chicken wings. So this is the we also have to respect and understand kapag napunta tayo sa mga countries na to that they are do not allow left hands with eating. And for my last example, we have here conflict with the business of Western country and Chinese people. In China, for example, you are applying for a corporate business or business in general, they tend to offer you a tea. And this is very it's an honorable gesture from the Chinese people, and uh, they believe na kapag hindi mo inaccept yung tea na inoffer nila, ah, malaki yung chance na you would fail your admission to that company. And however, in Western country naman, they are not used to drinking this type of drinks, tea, so they do not really swallow this kind of beverages. So this could cause conflict, and we have to understand that it's difficult for this is one of the reason why Western and China find it difficult to work with one another because of cultural differences. Of course, we also have advantages for cultural relativism. Let me discuss. Of course, we also have disadvantages. But first, just to give some insight, naalala ko lang that this was established by an anthropological researcher na si Franz Boas in the 20th century, and he believed that civilization is not something absolute but is relative, and our ideas and conceptions are true only so far as our civilization goes. So he was the one who discovered or pioneered the cultural relativism. Now to go with our first advantages of having cultural relativism. First, it is a system which promotes cooperation. For the most part, humanity is strong because of the differences we all have. Every individual has a different perspective that is based on their upbringing, experiences, and personal thoughts. So by embracing yung mga differences that we have, this cooperation creates the potential for a stronger bonds with one another and potentially achieve more more because we have no limitations from a group level and what can or cannot be accomplished. So when actually differences in our community is a good thing. It complements us. Someone might be a leader. Someone might be a worker or someone who's responsible for the resources. And this is important because we can't all be leaders, we can't all be teachers. So differences really promotes cooperation with the society. Next, it creates a society where equality is possible. In any society, people rise by climbing on top of other people. Cultural relativism allows the individual to define their moral code without defining the moral code of others. Each person is separate in such a society. That separation creates equality because each person can set his or her own definition of success. So one example is kapag may indigenous people with within the classroom, for example, Aita, we often majority is being discriminated or excluded from the like the groupings or sa classroom because they think that these people find it difficult to adapt. But with cultural relativism, pag naiintindihan natin that there is a room for them to learn and to adapt, then we can have an equal society, and it is possible. For next, people can pursue a genuine interest. In the modern society, people are funneled towards certain career options because of their circumstances. In cultural relativism, you get to pursue your own interests without restriction. So we are not dictated by pressure or people around us. Some people would tend to say na mag-abogado ka, mag-engineering ka, because those professions have high salary. But as they would say, wag kang mag-artist, wag kang mag-into music because you won't get anything from that. But we have to understand that we have to understand the personal happiness in pursuit of our profession. And we can do that with understanding that everyone has their own interest. Next, respect is encouraged in a system of cultural relativism. People come from different cultures, they have different ideas, they pursue different definitions of success. So, since may a good harmony in the society, then we can form respect with one another by understanding and by being subjective to another culture and not uh and by not seeing other people in our own perspective but by but relatively to their own point of view. Next, it preserve human culture. Humanity is a very diverse set of thoughts, traditions, ideas, and practices. Many times, traditions of humanity are set aside so that a set of standards can be appeased. This, ang take ko dito sa preserving human culture, since no culture is inferior or superior to another, then we can retain yung mga all cultures if possible. And walang naiiwan na culture because we both accept that nothing is right and nothing is wrong, and it preserves human cultures. And lastly, it creates a society where equality is possible. We are so trained to judge others in today's world that uh, that we don't even give it a second thought. Under the theory of cultural relativism, judgment goes away. So if we have respect with other culture, um, it can create a more respectful community. So if we have advantages, we also have disadvantages for cultural relativism. uh, it creates a system that is fueled by personal bias. Every society has a certain natural bias to it because of how humanity operates. People tend to prefer to be with others who have similar thoughts and feelings, so they segregate themselves into community. So for this uh so they segregate themselves. So communities and social groups, when people are given the power to define their own moral code, then they will do so based on their own personal bias. This is no longer a group of perspective, and people follow their own code at the expense of others. So people with the same culture or beliefs tend to group themselves and form bias in a community. Next, it would create chaos. People who can follow their own moral codes because there is no wrong or right would be allowed to pursue any life they preferred under the theory of cultural relativism. So this can create conflict kasi nga cultural relativism is not universal. Walang universal moral code. And for example, some big issues here are abortions, um, death penalty, and each country has their different view of implementation of these moral codes, and it could create chaos if we do not if we have differences like this, and it draws people away from one another. Although cultural relativism can promote people coming together to share their strengths, it can also encourage people to draw apart from one another, and it could limit moral progress. When we look at the idea of moral progress, we think of becoming more inclusionary instead of exclusionary. This inclusion is reflected in the laws and customs of the culture. So, sabi nga ni Shirin Ebadi, she was an anthropologist who believed that who doesn't agree with cultural relativism. She said that the idea of cultural relativism is nothing but an excuse to violate human rights. So, nalilimit yung moral progress ng society. This is why may mga group of people, terrorists, who have certain beliefs na it is morally okay to kill others kapag hindi same yung belief nila with their gods or religion, and they tend to think na okay lang yun kasi that is understandable by other people or maiintindihan ng ibang tao. So this is why nagkakaroon ng mga terrorism and killings and war because nagkakaroon ng dapat naiintindihan ng iba, this is what we believe. So we're gonna susundin namin kung ano yung culture or norms that we have. So, cultural relativism can turn perceptions into truth. In the world of cultural relativism, that bias become a truth that can be acted upon. The decision of the act becomes a righteous one because of the individual truth that the culture culture allowed through the bias it separates. So cultural relativism can also turn perceptions into truths. So here are our sources. It is naka-indicate po dito sa slide. And thank you. This is the last part of our presentation, and I would just like to leave you with the lesson that cultural differences should not separate us, but cultural diversity should bring us as it should bring us a collective strength that can benefit all humanity.